Hey guys, gals, Captain Kyle was in today, and we played Where's Kyle Going to Be This Year. We did a little recap of where he spent his summer and some of the giant blue marlin that he caught. Absolutely one of the best big game anglers in the world. So if you guys and gals want to enjoy this show, we'd love for you to check it out. And we also talked a little bit about some environmental stuff that's going on here on the Space Coast. So hopefully you will appreciate what we have for you guys and gals today right here on Catch a Memory Outdoors.
Well, good morning, East Central Florida, and welcome to another edition of Catch a Memory Outdoors right here on WWBC 1510 AM. We appreciate you guys and gals tuning in to see what's going on every day, every Saturday right here at Catch a Memory Outdoors. I'm Captain Jim Ross. I'm host of the show. And we've got Captain Kyle Weaver in the studio this morning. So good morning, Kyle.
Good morning, gang.
You know, it's been a where's, you know, we play this game, Where's Kyle? You have been all over the dadgum place. I mean, between the Azores, Madeira, coming home, going to Illinois for hunting season, coming home like a day, turn around and going to, you know, up to see the family. And where does your wife live? Nova Scotia?
New Brunswick.
New Brunswick.
Just above Maine.
Yeah.
So on the St. John River. We live on the St. John's here and the St. John there. So
well, there you go.
Pretty cool.
One end of the
I-95 corridor.
I was going to say one end of 95 to the other.
That's it.
Yeah. So appreciate you coming in this morning. We're going to have a whole lot of stuff to talk about this morning. It's going to be a good show because, as you guys and gals know, when Kyle's in, we always have some kind of wild tale that Kyle has lived throughout the year. And so we're going to talk a little bit about, I'd like to talk today, you know, recap on your summer, which wasn't as good as it could have been this year. You had some better summers. And then we'll talk a little bit about the hunting, and then we'll probably get into some speck fishing in a little bit because, you know, it's that season.
It's that season.
So hopefully you guys and gals enjoy the show this morning. And good morning to everybody that's out there on Facebook. Hopefully you guys and gals are enjoying the show as well. You know, Kyle, you've been home for a couple months.
Yes.
You got a chance to get out and do some pompano fishing, got a chance to do some triple tail fishing. There's no shortage of things to do in Kyle's life, it seems like.
No, if I'm home, I'm doing something. I'm either sleeping or doing something. There's no in between.
So let's talk about what you did this summer, because this summer, compared to last summer, seems to me like it was just not nearly as good a season over on the Eastern Atlantic as it was in some years past.
Yeah. So the owner didn't show up very much, so we didn't have a lot of fishing time.
Right.
Just on his schedule or whatever. And the marlin fishery, just like anything else, goes in cycles. You know, we get good runs of triple tail and cobia here, and then some years we don't. And the Azores is on a down cycle right now, and in history, it's probably going to last for the next 5 years.
Oh, really? It's that long?
Kind of like
cycle?
an El Nino, La Nina thing, you know. And you see cycles. For instance, like the Dominican Republic this year was incredible marlin bite. They set some records. I think Viking demo boat had 27, which is a new Atlantic record single day blue marlins.
Blue marlin in one day, 27.
Yep. So you saw the DR go off, and in years past you saw like the Abacos off Marsh Harbor, Bell Harbor, and that area, Walker's Cay, and then the Carolinas has been really, really good the last couple of years. So we'll kind of see if that pattern shifts a little bit. Usually when the DR is good, the southern Bahamas generally is good, and the northern Bahamas slows down in the Carolinas, and then Bermuda goes on a cycle. So I'm going to be in Bermuda. We'll see if that cycle happens. But we'll just have to see if.
So is obviously the marlin are in the water 365 days a year. Is it just a matter of that is when they're the most concentrated? Or I should say the summertime is when they're the most concentrated, or is it just that's when people have a tendency to fish for them more?
No, it's based on water temp, just like anything else. You know, they like that range of water temp.
Right.
And the Azores, the water temp's cold. You know, you get northern Atlantic currents pushing, the Gulf Stream hits in Europe there, and that's why it's what it is. And we caught the first blue marlin this year in the Azores, and it was between 850, and then I think it was 17 days later before, and this is the entire fleet. It was like 17 days later before the next blue marlin was caught.
Interesting.
So, but the tuna fishery this year was just, and I don't even want to discuss.
Different.
No, they're
Water-
usually there.
preferred water temps?
No. But they just happened to be there, and they might have run the blue marlins off. Who knows? But it was Nat Geo tuna fishing this year.
Really?
I mean, and of course, I don't even want to get into the world record we caught.
An 8, and yeah.
An 8.
So-
That's a whole.
so I know we kind of we touched base on that in one of the other shows, but at the point that you realized that fish probably
Oh, it
was the one,
It was. No
it
question.
was too
about
late.
it. Yeah. So, for those that don't know, there was an epic tuna bite going on, and I had my wife and my daughter on the boat. Had permission to go out and fun fish because we were bored out of our mind.
You can only sit at the dock so many days when the owner doesn't show up, right?
And it was just one of those feeds. And Bad Company, they caught one the day before. I think they called it 300 to put it on the scale or whatever. And they had the measurements of that fish, and it was like 310, something like that. And then,
And that was a big eye.
yeah, big eye tuna.
Big eye.
And then the year before, we had the 293 on 50 class, which was the world record. And this fish, my wife catches it, does everything by the book. And I actually had my father-in-law and mother-in-law on the boat, which is special.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and-
Okay.
They're not fishermen, but they're like, yeah, you know. And we catch this big one. I mean, it was just being a tuna and joking around. And I had a good mate. I call him Pete the Cleat. He's a real big, strong guy from Bermuda. He's wired lots of giant fish.
I was going to say, he's a big boy.
He's a very big boy.
Yeah.
So we're wiring it. I'm like, yeah, it was a big tuna. And he's like, I need help. You know, he had the gaff already coming out, and I was already coming off the bridge with the second gaff. And we stuck it, and I looked, and it's like, yeah, it's a big one. Didn't think anything of it. We slide it in the boat. Fish just bled out over the side of the boat because you don't want to bring one that big in live.
Right.
And we slide it in. He's like, what do I do? I was like, gut it, get ice in its cavity. Let's get it in the marlin bag. Let's get this thing iced down.
Yeah.
So we just ice it down overnight. And we're like, yeah, we'll fly it tomorrow after it gets iced down properly. And we pull it out, and Steve Lastly walks by, and he goes, man, that thing's giant. What is that? I was like, I don't know. All of a sudden, I'm like, well, let's measure it out. And it was 85 by 64, which comes out to 419. 385 pounds gutted, which shatters the men's and women's all tackle world record.
Yeah.
And here we are cutting
So at
this thing up.
385 gutted,
Yeah.
what is the current IGFA all
like
tackle world record for big ice?
369 and like a 40 or
Okay, so
36
under 370 pounds.
Yeah.
And this one gutted was 15, 16 pounds bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a big fish.
Yes. Oops.
That was a kick in the butt.
So now I got to hear from my daughter every time we go to eat. Some of that
Oh,
tuna.
I'm sure she doesn't. Yeah,
Are
and
we
she's an
some-
elephant like her mom. I'm sure. So
Oh.
you're going to live that down. You're never going to live that down. You will be in your grave. She's going to be. You're going to be in the casket, and she's going to be going, Dad, if you just would have measured it.
Yep. That's true. But it goes back when I was a kid, we had a world record kingfish that we didn't know, and we waded in, got the newspaper and article and everything, and I was on Cape Marina back in the day when Cape Marina is popular, and I weighed in, it was a world record kingfish. I got to look at the article. I was really young on the boat, like probably Kai's age, and they're like, oh, Bill Sargent. Like,
Yeah.
look at the size of this wahoo or something. It was like, at the time, like 93-pound wahoo. And then everybody starts looking at the picture, and it's like, no, that's a kingfish.
Yeah.
Didn't know back then. We're just young kids, and my dad didn't really know what a difference between a wahoo and a kingfish back then was. Didn't have social media to look up a
Right.
picture. You just assumed it was a wahoo that big.
When it's that big.
Yeah. So, man, stays in the family.
It happens. It happens. So yeah, so a lot of big tuna this year, and like you were saying, they were aggressive. They were just coming out of the water, just
Giant bait balls this year. They're a redfish. It's a little tiny redfish. It looks like little baby snappers when they spawn. Giant bait balls, and you go by and they're bright red bait balls, and they're just gorging themselves in these bait balls. And the whales and the porpoise and all that are too. So it was a really, really strong tuna season this year.
gotcha.
All year, like all the way through the whole entire season.
And you feel like it may even be that way next year.
It usually goes in cycles, yeah. So we'll see.
So going back to the blue marlin, you were saying that the Azores, Madeira wasn't as strong this year. The eastern and southern Atlantic and even into the Gulf was kind of more where the concentrations were.
Cape Verde had a really good season this year, and Cape Verde's been off for the last 4 years. I mean, Cape Verde's always good, but it wasn't its normal numbers.
Right.
And then this year it was. And then our area, the northern Atlantic, it seemed like it was a lot slower. But I mean, we caught an 850, a 950, a 750, a 650, and I think our smallest fish maybe 5 this year.
Well, that was what's interesting to me is, here off of the coast of Florida, and for the majority, I would say, of the United States, our fish just don't seem to be in that 850 class. We have 250, 350. Maybe you hear one once in a while that's going a little over 4, maybe touches 5, but you hardly ever on this side of the Atlantic hear of a fish that's running up into those kinds of numbers.
I would say it's probably 1 in every 100 fish on this side's going to make 500 plus.
Would that be, maybe you do, maybe you don't know this, would that be because this side of the Atlantic is typically more for the juvenile fish and teenage fish, and the adults tend to go over to the other side, or is it just happenstance?
I think it's the cold water. The little fish can't handle that cold water.
Right.
They don't have the fat content and stuff, and those big females can, and that's, they're up there just like the bluefin tunas. They can handle that cold water where you don't see yellowfin tunas up there. But the Atlantic catches plenty of big fish. There's plenty of big fish caught in the Abacos. There's plenty of big fish caught in the Carolinas, in the Mid-Atlantic, and the Gulf of Mexico is very warm water, and they're constantly catching 700s in the tournaments there.
Okay.
But it's just that northern climate is just giant. Everything there is big, and you got to be big. Nothing there.
It's Jurassic Park.
Yeah, and they're not there. Those fish aren't spawning there.
I have an area down in Isla Morada that I fish for tarpon that I've kind of termed Jurassic Park, because you do not find fish in this one little area. But it's not. It's way out in like open water. It's like not along a bank. It's just a travel corridor that they have a tendency to come through on occasion. And when they are coming through that area, every single one of these tarpon are 140 and above. And you have a legitimate shot at fish that are 175, 180, pretty regularly. And so I kind of deemed this, or termed this place, Jurassic Park, because I've only ever seen one other guy fish there. And I don't know who the guy is, but he knows. He knows that those fish are there. And he somehow knows when they're going to be there. Because what's interesting, he's a local guide in that area where I'm just going down, for a month at a time. So he knows whatever the condition is, and I'm going to have to pay closer attention to it, because this same boat is always there whenever those fish are there. And if the fish, like, I'll stop and I'll look and I'll look and I'll look and I'll fish and I'll have baits out, and I won't see them. And I won't see that guy either. I won't see that guide. So there's something that he's figured out about when they're going to be there and when they're not going to be there. But it's interesting that I have never seen anybody else fishing where that guy fishes. And I just lucked across it. The only reason I've totally lucked across it, because there was some crabs floating out on an outgoing tide one day, and I'm just running along. I'm going from spot A to spot B, and all of a sudden I just look over, and there's just one that just comes up and crushes a crab. And I looked at his back, and I'm like, holy cow, my wife's horse saddle might fit on that thing. It was that wide. And I just went, pull the throttle back. We got to slow down. We got to see what's going on here. And I totally just stumbled across this place, because it isn't what I would consider to be a typical tarpon spot.
The marlin, tarpon, I think all these older fish that live really old, tarpon, one of them.
Yeah, 60, 70 years.
Blue marlin, same thing. These giant tunas, they know. They've been doing this just like you. You know when that fruit tree is going to be ripe, and hey, it's wintertime. We had a bad frost like we're getting ready to get. We're not going to have a fruit season. They know. They really,
they figured it out.
50 years of doing this.
Well, I'll tell you what. So it was an epic tuna season. Not quite so good for blue marlin, but that's okay.
Caught some giant ones. I can't complain.
How many guys can say that they caught 4, 5, 6 fish over 500 blue marlin over 500 pounds in one summer?
You go all summer for a crack at 500.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Get a lot of experience over there.
So as bad as it was, it really didn't suck that bad.
No.
You know? Well, guys and gals, we're going to take our first break of the day. Captain Kyle Weaver and myself, Jim Ross, are going to be right back. So don't go away. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you sticking with us, or if you're just tuning in, appreciate you joining us this morning here on Catch Memory Outdoors. You know, we have a guy in the studio today who has done a lot of world traveling. So hopefully you guys and gals enjoy the show, because Captain Kyle has been all over the place catching all kinds of things. And what's funny to me, Kyle, is, you know, we started the show off saying it wasn't as good of a season for blue marlin, and you know, obviously, you know, eating a world record big eye tuna probably wasn't the best move, but it happened.
Pretty tasty.
Yeah, I was going to say it was probably pretty tasty.
Best tuna I've ever eaten.
But what's interesting is, you know, here you are catching 800, 900,000 pound fish, and yet one of the things that you really like to do is go speck fishing, and we'll get into that a little bit later. You've taken on a new job now, so it's not going to be Where's Kyle.
It's going to be Where's Kyle again
through the summer again. But you've taken on a new job, so you're not going to be doing that Azores Madeira summertime trip anymore. You're going to be sticking a little closer to home in being able to travel back and forth to various tournaments now, right?
Yeah. So we got a busy schedule already. Start off in Chub Cay. We just finished the Buccaneer tournament, sailfish tournament, out of West Palm, and then my next tournament will be Chub Cay, and then Chub Cay to Key West for the Viking Challenge, and then Walker's Cay, then Big Rock up in North Carolina, and then from there we're going to finish it off in Bermuda for the Bermuda Triple Crown.
Gotcha. So you've taken a position on a new boat. What is the new boat? You were running a 54 Bertram before?
Correct. And now it's going to be a 68 Viking.
A 68 Viking.
Yep.
Okay. And it's specifically this owner that you're captaining for. Sounds like he's definitely a tournament kind of a guy.
They're new owners. They're super nice people, and he grew up fishing with his dad back in the 90s, and now he wants to get back in it. Now he's got his kids are all grown up and on their own. We're gonna create a tournament team. See how we do.
Awesome. So you've already run one tournament.
Yeah, right off the get go. I take the job.
Took the job, and 2 days later you're
like, hey, we're signed up for a tournament. I'm like, oh, okay. This is
okay.
Throw me in the fire. Here we go. So no pre-fishing, no nothing. I'm like, I don't even know how to start this boat yet.
Yeah.
So it went smooth. We didn't do as good as we wanted, but it was slow fishing overall. The top boat was 6, and we were 1 for 3. So
okay,
can't complain.
So
about
how
that.
are the sharks?
They're terrible.
Yeah,
so
that's the big thing right now.
They're terrible. I watched. Obviously, not everybody's in the tournament, but it was live bait and dead bait. You get more points for dead bait, so I chose the dead bait because I'm better at it. I'm not going to compete against guys that do it every day down there. And it was slow fishing, so I figured they were spread out. Why live bait? And
you can cover more ground anyway.
I watched 5 or 6 kite live bait guys. Watch them on sailfish, and the sharks just pile on it. They were in the tournament. Just pile on them. Like you'd see them chasing it, and like trying to get the sharks away. And then, you know, they'd hook up and you're like, oh, they just hooked up, because you could see the kite change. And
right.
And all of a sudden you'd see the sailfish jump 200 yards from the boat, and you just see fins and tails and blood right on the hookup. And I just posted where I just saw a right whale died off of Oregon Inlet or the Outer Banks.
Okay.
Yeah, it just came up, and there's a picture of it swimming all entangled in a lobster trap or whatever, some kind of line, and then it shows the picture of it dead, and it's hardly anything left, and it's miles around this thing's nothing but brown, and they're not cobia. It's all sharks.
It's all sharks around that whale. Wow.
They're out of control. The population is just, and they're learning. You know, they're very smart animals, so they know.
Yeah.
They hear that boat change, you know, just like they hear your sonar going. They're just learning, you know, and they're overpopulated. They really are. They're saying that's a sign of a healthy, it's not a healthy balance. These fish are just, if they're not eating, for one snapper you catch, you fed 10 to the sharks. For one sailfish you release, you fed 10. So you got to take that in consideration. Now, what about the days that they're not eating your fish? What are they eating on the reefs? They got to eat, whether you're there or not. So they're just decimating. They're It's got to be a healthy balance.
They become the new Goliath grouper.
Yeah, it's not a healthy balance.
So, I mean, back when we had near coastal longlining for sharks, I don't know enough about that fishery because it's been gone for so long. I don't know enough about that fishery to know what kind of bycatch they were getting. It would be interesting to see if they had some catch data, because honestly, everybody that you talk to, from Key West to the Carolinas, is saying that the sharks are a problem. And if that is the case along the entire Atlantic seaboard, then potentially opening up even a partial season for shark, I think, wouldn't be a bad idea.
It wouldn't. And you
don't want to decimate a population, and we had pretty much decimated the shark population. Late 80s, early 90s, it was getting, you didn't see sharks.
Correct.
You just didn't. But, so we swung it too far back in the other direction now.
And we don't have the long line for these. I mean, or if you do, you could do a 10 set long line and check it every hour and you'd still get your limit. You could control this. It's a controllable thing.
That's what I'm thinking is on a short term. I mean, a typical long line is a 40-mile set with a dropper every 100 feet. For tuna, dolphin, and everything else that eats whatever's hanging off the hook. In shark fishing, in particular, you could take a half a bonita and put it on each hook and have 10 hooks, and theoretically have 10 sharks. And if you did a 10 shark limit a day, and you had 100 people invested in that particular fishery, 100 commercial guys invested in that fishery,
you would keep it
from Key West to Carolina. That would be a huge start to sort of rectifying the overage.
Yeah. It needs to be opened up.
I mean, if there was 1,000 sharks a day that were caught between Key West and the Carolinas, and you had a season that was, let's just say the season's 6 months long, I don't think that would harm the fishery enough that you're going to put anything into a endangered type of a scenario. You could utilize, obviously, the shark meat, the shark fins, everything else that the
skin,
everything else that can be utilized off of a shark, and yet control the population so that recreational and commercial anglers alike aren't having to deal with depredation because of sharks.
And you could figure it out too. It's like, okay, we started 5 years ago and we used to catch our limit in a month, and all of a sudden, all right, now it takes us 3 months to catch the quota or whatever. Okay, we're starting to see a decrease.
Yeah.
And then, okay, at what point do we stop and pull back the numbers? Instead of going from what typical NOAA does, they go from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, they go from you can take everything you want to overshutting the whole thing down.
And when you take away something, now you put pressure on another resource.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see sea bass anymore.
Mm-mm.
Well, why? Because you can't keep grouper, you can't keep snapper, you can't keep triggerfish. This is closed, and next thing gets hammered. Triggerfish.
What's interesting to me is, we've done the same thing to the Goliath groupers. I thoroughly am convinced that one of the reasons that our sea bass are not there, because they're kind of slow, dumb fish. They really are. And they're just not wary enough to get away from the Goliath. And a Goliath can come up and suck, if there's a school of sea bass, they can suck 2 or 3 in at a swallow, and the Goliaths have gotten so thick, even, fishing triple tails on the Canaveral buoy line, I'll mark 4, 5, sometimes 6 Goliaths on the chain holding the buoy in place.
Yep.
With side scan now, it's very easy to determine what's on the buoy and what's not on the buoy. And I can tell you if it's a jack. I can tell you if it's a triple tail. I can tell you if it's bluefish and Spanish swimming by. I can tell you if it's pilchards. I can tell you if it's obviously a Goliath. And the Goliaths mark up very well on a side scan. And when you pull up to a buoy and you're trying to triple tail fish it, or you're trying to catch some sheephead off of it or something, and you're not getting any bites, and you're looking down there and you're seeing 5 Goliaths on the side scan, there's a reason why you're not getting any bites.
Yeah. No, and there they go again, one extreme to the other. And long lining, I used to hate long lining, but it's the lesser of all evils. You're never going to catch everything on hook.
Right.
If you have 5 fish, you might catch 3, 2 live. I see it in the Azores. I see it in Costa Rica. I see it everywhere I go, these purse seiners. Problem with the purse seiner is they're taking out one entire school. None of those genes are gone. When they hit that school, it's very rarely anything lives. They get the entire school. In the Azores, the Portuguese do the old school bamboo hook and line, even on those 300, 200-pound big eyes, or they hand line them. They go to the school, they throw out live baits and 4 or 5 guys back there, and then they're either on the bamboo and stick them right away, or they hand line these fish. Spain has a big purse seine fleet. European Union. Spain has the quota. So last year was epic. We were allowed to keep 1 fish a day. And then all of a sudden, here comes the purse seiner. And they hit 1 time on that school, wiped out the entire school in that area on this bank, and they filled the entire quota for the year.
On one school.
On one school. So think about this. Everybody that's hook and line, it'd take them all summer. Constant money, constant fresh supply of fish.
Fresh supply.
Now
yeah.
you get this giant purse seiner comes and wipes out this entire school, sells it to the market at a reduced rate.
Floods the market.
It's flooded, and it goes to China, goes to wherever.
Yeah.
The locals don't get it. It's not fresh in the restaurant. That's mismanagement.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is happening around the world. And if you want to blow your mind, pull up, there's an app, Maritime Watch or whatever, and you can pull up AIS, which is, you have to have beacons.
Yeah.
You look at the Chinese fleet around the world, and you look at all the commercial fishermen in the Pacific, all the way down the African coast, it's all Chinese fleet, and just mind-boggling how many commercial boats are out there. They don't care. They do whatever they want. They don't play by the rules. They get busted. 1 boat's arrested. No big deal.
We got 15 other boats out there operating illegally.
And they just do whatever they want. They tried to do it in the Bahamas. They actually had the rights in the Bahamas, but we shut that down. They were going to get the fishing rights for the Bahamas. You know, they have a bunch of rights down in some of these Caribbean islands that they're long lining in the Atlantic and coming over and flying their products out, and they're just decimating the fishing.
Well, that's what, my buddy Gary Brown used to tell me. He, 30 years ago, he was working on one of the boats for the Carter Rock division, and they go down into the tongue of the ocean and play submarine warfare games. They basically go down, put out their acoustic array, and listen to all of the different subs. They listen to the Russian subs, our subs, the European subs, the Chinese subs, and they kept tabs on where everybody's at and what they're doing, because every single boat has its own unique sound signature, fingerprint, if you will. And so he would come back and he would tell me, he was like, man, there was 3 longline boats down there, down towards the southern Bahamas, tongue of the ocean.
See them all the time.
And he's like, he was like, man, I used to only ever see, never see one or see like 1. He goes, man, now there's like 3. When he stopped that job 15 years ago, 18 years ago, he told me there was 30 to 40 boats out there every night. And he said it's about a 60 boat fleet. He says, because there's 30 that are actively fishing and there's 30 that are steaming back over to Central America to offload and then rebait, refuel, and come back and take the place of the fleet that's currently fishing. He says it's a nonstop revolving
yes, it is.
Door of 40-mile hooks, hook sets from the Asian fleet.
I see it all the time.
Yeah.
You go down to starting San Salvador, Mayagana, Plana, and then you got Turks and Caicos, southern Bahamas. You spend all the time down there. Anchor up at these remote islands. You look out, and it's just glow of lights way offshore.
Yeah.
And then they go dark. And then when they're hauling gear, you see a glow of light. You'll catch that glow of light. They're pretty smart. They'll do it right at sunrise. So you're looking and you think it's
into the sun.
You see it all the time. Yeah. And the Bahamians.
But he says what happens is all of the dolphin, all of the sailfish, all of the wahoo, everything that's coming from the south part of the Caribbean that's working its way up north to us, the dolphin run, the wahoo runs that we used to get, they're having to run through that gauntlet of hooks before they ever get to us. And the majority of that product is taken to Central America and shipped and then flown straight over to Asia.
And then flown back here as a different labeled something else, caught in Thailand or caught here.
We caught it somewhere else and then send it back to the...
I see it personally with my own eyes. Like one time I went San Salvador or St. Thomas. Instead of going, I had the feel, and it was going to be rough in the Mona Passage, which is known for its between Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. So I'm like, I got the feel. I'm just going to chug straight to St. Thomas and avoid all that. and I saw probably 8 or 9 boats, longline boats,
Yeah.
on that route.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
You're cutting off. It's just terrible.
Yeah. Well, guys and gals, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we got a caller on the line, so don't go away. We're going to be right back with Captain Kyle and myself, Jim Ross, after these messages. Welcome back, guys and gals. We appreciate you tuning in to Catch Your Memory Outdoors. This segment of the show is brought to you by Direct Graphics. Got the new Catch Your Memory Outdoor radio show shirt. Little short sleeve action going on today by Direct Graphics. So hopefully you guys and gals, we're going to start putting together. You know what? Actually, we'll just go ahead and start that. No, we'll have to start it next week. We'll start it next week. We'll start a T-shirt giveaway for those of you guys and gals that throughout the week post a picture of whatever you did. You know, maybe you went plinking, maybe you went hog hunting, maybe you went caught some fish. But whatever you did outdoors that particular weekend, we're going to have you guys and gals post it up on the Catch Your Memory Outdoors Facebook page. I don't want to do Instagram too. I just going to do the Facebook side of it because it's easier to keep track of. And at the end of the week or at the end of the month, we'll figure out. We'll just pick a picture of somebody doing something, and we'll send you a shirt. So give us a shout here at Catch Your Memory by posting up on the Catch Your Memory Outdoors page, and that's going to be. We'll start that next week. So just give you guys a heads up if you're out there doing something this weekend that doesn't involve frostbite. Definitely, or maybe it does involve frostbite.
Could be this week.
Could be this week. Post it up, starting tomorrow, because tomorrow's the 1st. Starting tomorrow, go ahead and post something up. But anyway, Direct Graphics can build, design, do whatever you want for you. Pretty much, if you need something done that's going to promote yourself, your business, whatever, you want a boat wrap, a truck wrap, you need business cards. It doesn't really matter. T-shirts, they do it all. So give them a call over at Direct Graphics, 321-631-1001. They're right there in Cocoa on US 1. You can stop by and even talk with some of the designers to see what's going on, rather than just email back and forth. If you want to get a face to a name, and stop by at Direct Graphics and tell them you heard about it on Catch Your Memory. We're going to go to the phone lines. We got Captain Mike Mann on the line. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning, guys. How are you today?
Well, we're doing all right. We're trying to stay dry. We got a little drizzle coming through this morning.
Oh, nice. Well, see, it's passing through there. I am up in Dublin, Georgia right now, and it was supposed to be snowing, and there's no snow, but it's 33 degrees. It's supposed to be, I think, like 14 or 10 or something in the morning here, but maybe we'll get some snow this afternoon.
Well, we were just talking about that before the show started. We're like, if it did this tomorrow, if it did this little drizzle tomorrow, we might actually have some snow, but it looks like it's going to be too much.
Turn on the sprinklers.
Yeah, too little water, too late.
Just turn on those sprinklers. Be like a snow. You know how they make snow up in the mountains.
Yeah, I tell you that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm seeing a lot of people are freaking out, worried about. I don't know how big of a fish killer is going to be. I fished yesterday, and I noticed a lot of the bigger fish had kind of moved. The fish that we worry about with a big cold snap like this had moved to the edges of the deeper water. So, and the water had warmed up to almost 60 degrees.
That's what I was going to ask.
That's the one positive. Yesterday,
Warm.
I think, because they called for a high of 70 yesterday, and it actually got up to about 75.
That helps.
That helped a lot, or I think that is going to help thwart as much. I'm sure we're going to get probably some frost, some frost damage on these fish. We're probably going to see small scale kills. I'm not as convinced that we're going to get as big a scale of a kill as what I was 5 days ago. And so I'm looking at it in an optimistic light. And like you say, Mike, a lot of the fish in the lagoon system, they did drop off the edges and start to get into some deeper water. The only exception to that was the Sebastian area.
Yeah.
Because Wednesday and Thursday, there were huge numbers of gigantic trout, gigantic snook laying in extremely shallow water. Now, can they swim? Yeah, they can swim. Okay.
Slowly.
Is there deep water close? Yeah, there's deep water close. that they can get to.
But you also have
but-
the ocean coming in and helping keep that temperatures at bay too.
Right, at Sebastian. But there were a lot of big fish in places where you did not want to see big fish. And all they were doing was warming up. They weren't trying to feed. They were not feeding. They were just trying to get warm. But that was the one downside to what I've seen and heard of from everybody that I've talked to, basically along the Space Coast, from Ponce Inlet to Sebastian Inlet, is that's my one worry zone. Even though it's the farthest south part of the zone, it seems like those fish may not have gotten the memo. And I hope they do, because the fish in the central lagoon and the fish in the northern part of the lagoon seem like they got the memo. I think the only exception that we're going to possibly see is the fish from Haulover South. The south end of Mesquite Lagoon is probably pretty susceptible, because those fish don't like to leave. They like to just stay down there. They like to lay in the mud. They do not like to get up and move anywhere. And 5 feet of water is 5-6 feet of water is as deep as it is in the southern part of the lagoon. That's not enough.
And it's north wind pushing that water.
Yeah, that's
So,
not. They need
my
10 or
thought-
12 feet of water to be able to get to, and it's a long way from Pelican Island to Haulover Canal.
Yeah.
So,
Well, my thought is that, so the water, even up in the shallows yesterday, I had 58 to 60.
okay,
2 days ago, the coldest water I found after the cold snap we had. Now, granted, it wasn't as big as this one, but it was a longer cold front with more wind, or with a lot of wind. The coldest water I found was 51, 52. So if they move to, say, 5 foot, I mean, we've got 12 hours of freezing temperatures tonight. And then I think like 10 hours the next night. It's going to warm up to 50. And the nice thing we've got is we've got bright sun. We don't have like frigid temperatures with cloudy skies. So,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. That's
and,
the
I'm
other
sure
part of
there's
it,
gonna
Mike.
be some casualties.
Yeah, that's the other part of it is the sun factor. When we had those days in 2010 early 2011, it was not only cold, it was overcast as well. And we had four consecutive days of colder temperatures than the day before. And so it was just a trap. It was an absolute trap for the fish.
And it was a plummet front that came through. It went from 80 degrees and like 70-degree water temperature to like within 2 days, that water dropped down to 48 degrees.
That's a shock.
And when you get that giant drop like that, the fish don't have time to respond. We've gradually been getting a little cold snap and warm up a little bit, a little cold snap, warm up a little again. So I don't think we're going to, there's definitely going to be some casualties, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as what we saw back then. Cause I mean, that was heartbreaking. You and I remember that because we were guiding them. You get out there, it's just like, 10-pound trout. And fortunately, in the lagoon, there wasn't a lot of snook at that time.
Right.
Now there's a lot of snook. So,
yeah,
we'll
which
see
are
what
the
happens
most
with the
susceptible fish. When I look at temperatures, I look at 50 as being the threshold for where the snook start to get a little wobbly, if you will.
yeah.
At 48, they're not good.
I remember that.
Not good at
Yeah.
all. So if the water hits 48, we're in trouble.
They wiped them out all the way down to West Palm 10 years ago, whenever that last one was.
But then right after that, you've got trout coming in at 48 degrees.
Yeah.
And if it drops down to 47 or 46, they're done.
And it's kind of funny.
And the
that
catfish too. There's a lot of fish in that 47, 48 degree range. That's their minimum threshold. You got puffers, catfish, stingrays, speckled trout, that all will not survive a sustained amount of water temperature like that.
And here, my buddy up in Merle's Inlet, South Carolina, up in that area, he's still catching trout up there. That water temp up there is extremely cold, but they survive up there. It's kind of weird.
I think though, I don't know Merrill's Inlet all that good, but I know Bogue Inlet and I know the North River and Harker's Island and Cape Lookout, and there's enough deep water in those areas
Keep that warming up.
that
down
they
here.
can drop off. They can still flood into the shallows if they want to, but North River, as an example, when you come out of Beaufort, when you come out of Moorhead and Beaufort, and you're heading on 70, and then you take the cutoff at the North River Bridge to go over to Harker's Island, that
It's 30 feet. Right
area
there.
right there has still got some decent depth to it. But once you get north of the North River Bridge, that turns into a big plateau, just a big flat almost, if you will. And that side of the bridge in particular, you know, my cousins, because my family lives right there on that piece of water. That part of the river, they do see a lot of fish kills, but they don't see it so much on the other side of the bridge, which is kind of interesting. But the bridge there is very similar to like the NASA Causeway Bridge. It's very restrictive. So what's on one side, if it doesn't get through the channel and to the other side, it's kind of stuck, if you will.
I know that area.
Yeah. So but like you said, I think, you know, if there's enough water depth to keep enough temperature above 50 degrees, I think we're going to be okay. But that's why I'm kind of really worried about the south end of the lagoon. Mike, and you know, in another place that you think about, Mike, is any of those middle flats from George's all the way to Orange Island. You know, there's deeper water to the east, there's deeper water to the west. But if they get hung up and they decide they want to lay in a mud hole in Gaines Slough or something like that, you know, in the back of Catfish Bay, you know, they if they get in there and they go, oh, I'm just going to lay here in the mud and I'll be okay, they're done. Yeah. They're done because they're not going to make it out.
Flats, that water's going to get down into the 40, you know, probably 45 to 48 degrees up in the skinny.
Yeah.
The deep water will probably be bumping that 48, 49 on the surface, but down below, they'll probably be holding at 50. Because, I mean, it really is. It's 12 hours. And it's going to get cold, and it's going to be frigid cold.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's going to be some casualties. We know there will be, but hopefully it's nothing like we saw in 2010, 2011. And the cool thing was yesterday, man, what a great bite. And you called me. I told you. I said, you know, I got a big school black drum. They're kind of swimming in circles. They're not. We caught one, got up there, and it was not hooked in the mouth.
Gotcha.
We
hey,
had
Mike,
3 or 4 more on. Yes, sir.
Can you hold through the break?
break?
Let's get this break out of the way, and then we'll go into what you were talking about, because I want to go back to the temperatures as well before we hit the top of the hour, if that's okay. Cool.
Yep,
Guys and
not a
gals,
problem.
I hate to interrupt Captain Mike in the middle of it, but we got to get this break out of the way. When we come back, we got a whole lot more, so don't go away. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch a Memory Outdoors. This segment of the show is brought to you by Engel Coolers, and if you haven't checked out Engel Coolers, man, I'm telling you, you guys got to go to engelcoolers.com. And actually today, if you want to, if you're looking for a scratch and dent, I just got an email 2 days ago. I wish they'd give us a little more heads up. I got an email 2 days ago. Today's scratch and dent day at the Engel factory down in Jupiter. So you can jump in the car. You can be there, you know, if you're in Central Florida, an hour and a half, and check out all the scratch and dents, which normally go for at least 50% off, sometimes 70% off of the regular price. So overages, like if they run, let's say they run a batch of coolers for, say, Skeeter or for Hughes or Maverick or something like that, they'll have a bunch of overages, or they'll have some that the color was just slightly off maybe. And so it'll still have the logo on it, but it doesn't matter. If you got a Carolina Skiff, if you got a Viking, you can still carry a Engel cooler on it, and it says Skeeter on the side of it. Who cares?
The deer don't care
The
either.
deer don't care. The fish don't care, right? Your drinks don't care.
Hogs don't see it from the inside of that cooler.
You're right about that. So they are having a scratch and dent. It's until noon today, so if you guys and gals are going to get there, throw on a jacket, jump in the car, and get going. Like I said, I wish they would give me a little more heads up so we could give you guys and gals a week's notice so that you could be doing that ahead of time. But I just have been unsuccessful in getting them to communicate a little quicker. I think it's one of those things where they run out of storage room and they're like, oh, let's just throw it up flash sale, you know. We're out of storage room. We got a new batch coming in. We got to get these gone, and they'll just throw a flash sale. Anybody who stops by gets a 50% discount or 70% discount.
And they should have done it next week. Everybody be going down to the Miami Boat Show.
Right.
And you could
right.
stop it on the way down to the Miami Boat Show.
Well, they're probably going to be setting up for the show, so nobody will be at the shop. So maybe that's why they did it this week. But, yeah, good thought process. You're right. Anyway, we're going to go back to the phones. Engelcoolers.com if you don't happen to get down to the scratch and dent sale today. We're going to go back to the phone lines because we were talking with Captain Mike Mann, and he was talking, when I called him yesterday morning, I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm watching these black drums, spin around like sprayed roaches. And but fortunately he hooked one. But Mike, real quick, we were talking about temps. Looks like 61 is about as warm as it's going to get today. And then around 1 o'clock, the front's going to have passed through, and it's going to start cooling down. And then right around 3 to 4, it's going to start getting pretty doggone windy. And we're looking at 30 knots of wind, maybe gusts of 40. So it's not going to be nice. And then tomorrow morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., we're looking at 28 degrees with a 20-mile-an-hour wind on top of that. That's not good.
There goes my mangoes.
Yeah.
No.
That's not good. And then the next morning, and all day Sunday, it's only going to get to mid 40s here on in the Cocoa Beach area. And then the following morning, they actually raised the temperature because they were talking about teens.
Wow.
And now they're talking about Sunday night going into Monday morning as only being down into the 30s. So they've raised that part of the forecast about 10 degrees or so, maybe a little bit more than what they had previously sort of projected. And I don't see anything for the next 3 or 4 days that looks like it's going to be back into the 20s again, at least here on the Space Coast. So fingers crossed, toes crossed, say your prayers. Hopefully we're not going to lose a whole lot of fish based on this revised model of forecast that they just put out.
Well, on the bright side, if there is a bright side, wouldn't this kill some of the algae blooms and some of the bad bacteria in the water because it's been so warm? Would it?
But there's not that much bloom.
There's not that much bloom. And what it can kill is what we had in 2010, 2011. It actually killed one of the good algae.
Yeah, the good ones too.
Yeah.
That would feed on the bad algae.
Yeah.
Trying to make light of the situation here, guys.
Yeah. But no, there's but the positive side to it is, with the exception of Titusville, and we all know that Titusville is, we can't put it all on Titusville. The Space Center is a huge polluter. Huge.
Yeah.
The entire Space Center is a huge pollution source. It just doesn't get reported on the way that, the city of Titusville gets reported on, because it's not poop or totally cleaned water.
It's chemicals
going into the lagoon system. It's the chemicals that are being dumped by the Space Center. And we'll get into a little bit of that a little later in the show, possibly, because we did have this whole Blue Origin thing last night. But let's get back to what Mike was talking about with the black drum and how the bite did for him once the drum decided that they were going to eat.
Yeah, so, we talked, and you said, well, there's the major. I said, oh, yeah, I watched the major. I think major feed time started about 9:30, and it went to, I think, 10:30 or 11 yesterday.
Yeah.
And that literally, the bite started, we had one fish to the boat, foul hooked before 9:30. Well, so I'll say 9:15, we had a double hookup. We ended up catching, I think, 6 big black drums, 6 redfish, all in that 2-hour period. And then the bite stopped.
So it was fast and furious, and then it just kind of laid down, huh?
That 2-hour feed time, they fed, and then the wind picked up a little bit. And some clouds moved in. It got a little overcast, got a little harder to see. So there were some factors in there, but it literally, that feed time, they did feed, and it was a major feed. And I knew, the closer you get around full moons, and especially in the wintertime, the more those feeds, much like dead in the summertime too, the more those feed times matter.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Because, well, Jimmy, you book your charters, you schedule your charters around the minors and majors. I know
A lot of times I do. Yeah, we didn't start yesterday until 9:30 because there was a 9:30 to about 11:30 major, and the bite was pretty good for us. I wouldn't say it was as strong as your bite was, but it was pretty good. And then it waffled just a little bit around noon, and then right around 1 o'clock, just before 1 o'clock, we got that wind shift. We got that prefrontal wind shift, and the prefrontal wind shift, the wind was kind of coming out of the north a little bit, and then it stopped and laid down, and it kind of came out of the southeast for a very short period of time, 15, 20 minutes, just a light southeast push. And when that happened, everything started again. And, we caught snook to 36 inches. We caught redfish to 34 inches. In fact, we caught a redfish yesterday that looked like it was in the mouth of, I don't know, some kind of gigantic shark. It was lacerated. It looked like somebody had whacked it with a machete from its shoulder all the way to its tail. I can't believe this thing was actually still alive. I mean, it was just absolutely laid open from this shark. I mean, somehow it got away from it, but the bite radius on that particular shark, I don't know how he didn't just bite the whole redfish in half, because it was huge. But long story short, that prefrontal 15, 20-minute time frame, and then all of a sudden the wind kicked and came out of the west-southwest. Yep. And when it kicked and came out of the west-southwest, boom, everything stopped. And so the last 30 minutes of the trip, we were like, nothing. We had like one small flounder, but we had a little flurry where the snook, the redfish, everything, all of a sudden they were going. And it was kind of interesting because I'm like, this isn't making any sense to me. At that particular time, it wasn't making any sense to me because it wasn't during the major feed time. But there was another factor, as we always talk about. There's always another factor that you have to take into consideration, and that's exactly what happened right then. Hey, buddy, we're out of time, but we appreciate your reports this morning, and enjoy your time up in Georgia, and try not to get too frosty up there.
I'll do my best. I've got days open. If you want to give me a call at 386-295-5991. Go right to my website, fatfishguide.com. It's going to be on fire.
Yeah, once the warm-ups comes, it's gonna get good. I can't wait. All right, buddy. We appreciate it this morning, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will talk with you soon.
Sounds great, guys. Get out and catch your memory.
All right, buddy. Take care. Guys and gals, we're going to take our top of the hour break. When we come back, we got a whole another hour of Catch Your Memory, so don't go away. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch Your Memory Outdoors. Obviously, for those of you that were here for the first part of the show, we've had a pretty good, diverse talk this morning about different things. This second hour is probably going to be no different. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things, especially with this cold front that's coming through. But we're looking forward to, getting some additional information out there for you guys and gals about what we went to last night, where we went to the Blue Origin wastewater disposal meeting, and it was kind of anticlimactic, if you will. But we got some additional information, but there's also some stuff that they're not quite telling you. So our next guest is going to be on and may be able to shed some light as to, we were talking about pollution in and around the lagoon area, the Mesquite Lagoon, the Indian River Lagoon, the Northern Banana River Lagoon, and where some of that pollution is coming from. Obviously, the city of Titusville is a major contributor, or has been in the past. They're trying to not be as much of a contributor. Slowly, reluctantly, begrudgingly, if you will. I don't know why they are so opposed to trying to clean up their own mess, but they really are. But inputs, just any input into a saltwater lagoon that isn't saltwater is not good. And so our next guest that we've got on the line here has a little more information about that. And we've got Carla on the line. So good morning. Welcome to the show, Carla.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks to everyone listening. I'm excited to be here.
So you have some additional information for the listeners out there, but give yourself a little pat on the back for doing what you've been doing, and also kind of give a little background about yourself, if you will.
Yeah, of course. Before we talk about this issue, I really wanted to start with something simple, which is that the Indian River Lagoon supports $6.8 billion annually in recreational and commercial fishing. This includes charter captains like you, bait shops, marinas, seafood markets, and families who rely on fishing for their livelihood. So this means that our voice is really important here. For those that don't know me, I served in the Navy for 10 years as a boat captain, and I spent most of my career on the water. Today, I'm talking to you as the Executive Director of Anglers for Conservation, which is a nonprofit that's based here out of Satellite Beach, Florida. We work with anglers, boat captains, families, and youth across the state. But I'm also a scientific researcher at the University of Central Florida, where I study seagrasses, as well as the ecology and the conservation of the Indian River Lagoon.
So Carla, one of the things that guys like myself, I'm just the fishing guide. I don't have the paper, I don't have the knowledge that people like you have, and so. In my line of work, I see things with my own eyes, and I make my own observations. And sometimes those are right, and probably sometimes those are wrong. And I may be wrong more times than I'm right. But what I see and what I've seen over the years is that the more that the Space Center builds, the harder it is for the lagoon to recover. And so I know that there's things that are going on out that way that are definitely having an effect on my livelihood and on all of the listeners recreating out on the lagoon system. It's affecting them as well. And so last night we were at this Blue Origin wastewater meeting. And when you look at it on a surface level, it's when you first hear about it, and they're going to potentially be dumping up to 500,000 gallons, 500,000 gallons of water a day back into the lagoon. You're like, what are they doing? We're trying to fix this place. Okay. When you look at Blue Origin's version of what they presented at the meeting last night, they're like, oh, well, we're not really going to be doing that. There may be some water that goes to the lagoon. There may not be. We can't tell at this point, but we don't think we're going to be doing anything harmful, and so you guys are okay. Just settle down and don't worry about it. It was kind of the vibe that I got. Now, somewhere in between those two is the actual truth. My take on it is this: as a fishing guide, as a non-informed, non-scientific based opinion. My take on it is the more development that goes on the Space Center, the more problems I see happening to the waters around that lagoon system. And the more that we develop, so this is a whole another subject, the more that we develop this county, which I put on the county commission and the building departments of each city and of the county itself. The more that we develop this county, the more water we have to divert from land that used to be natural land that was an absorption area for rainwater and other things. Now we're paving it over. It's running down the off the roof of whatever the building is, where the house, to the gutter, into the stormwater pipe, and the stormwater pipe ultimately leads to the lagoon system.
Right.
You can't continue putting fresh water in a saltwater lagoon system. And then not just putting fresh water in a saltwater lagoon system, but what the contaminants are in anything. I don't care if it's a natural thing that's in the water or a non-natural thing that's not supposed to be in the water, like brake dust or some kind of a chemical. It's still not supposed to be in the lagoon system. So from my point of view, is anything that is producing water that ultimately ends up in the lagoon system is a bad thing. That's just my take on it, okay? And so
absolutely.
when I look at their little explanation yesterday, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, you've got this retention pond and you're putting it into a retention pond. The retention pond is not lined.
Correct.
That means any of the quote-unquote chemicals, sediments, potentially problematic product
Right in the
are
aquifer.
going to eventually flow down and get into the aquifer. And we all know what happens. We live on a sponge. And so the water that's over in MIMS one day could be over underneath the Space Center the next day due to simple water pressure. And then it could be pushed back over to Port St. John the next day, if you will. And the water that we live above is constantly moving around down there, and it flows in and out of the aquifer and in and out of the lagoon system. That's the majority of the way that septic systems pollute our lagoon. People are like,
Yep.
I live 4 miles, 2 miles from the lagoon system, and I'm on septic. That's fine, but your septic then leaches into the ground that then transports it eventually into the lagoon where the various things that we don't want feeding on it, like algae, start feeding on
Right.
it and start blooming. And so everything that's built on this county basically is a problem. My house is a problem. I'm on sewer, but my house is a problem because when the sewer can't hold all of that affluent that comes at it, it has to do something. And the default,
you're absolutely right.
is the lagoon system. So, long story short, I think a combination. I just think that overbuilding is the problem. So now that I've given my overview from a fisherman's standpoint and watching how it changes the lagoon system, you have found a lot of things that they aren't telling us about in this proposed water discharge.
Yes, Jim, you're absolutely right. Like what you were saying, the groundwater and the surface water are all connected. And what goes into the pond, it moves through the soil and into the wetlands, through the canals, and it goes into the lagoon. So that they're framing it as isolation, but this is connectivity. And so when I reviewed their publicly available records, I found that they violated their permits more than 270 days out of the year. 10 times that they exceeded their permit requirements. And what I saw is that they are, discharging this acidic water that as low as 3.8. So the scale is from 0 to 14. So that is very acidic when you have 7 that is pure water.
Is neutral,
Yeah. So the other thing that I found is that, the Environmental Protection Agency has this thing called the Toxic Release Inventory Program. And what this does is that if you're a manufacturing or aerospace company, if you have more than 10 employees, there are certain chemicals that require special tracking. And I think that the problem here is what they're not reporting. This permit doesn't require any of it. So the biggest concern here, Jim, is that, this permit doesn't require testing for those PFAS, the forever chemicals,
Yes.
any heavy metals, none of these industrial solvents. So this means that they're discharging this industrial wastewater into a valuable fishery that's worth billions of dollars, but they're not actually measuring what's moving through the system. So bottom line, we're being asked to accept this permit, and they really, yesterday they simply did not have the data to verify that it is okay. And the other thing is that this isn't just a problem with the environment. This is a public health problem because the waters, these are legally classified that they're safe for seafood harvesting.
Yes.
And this means that the state recognizes that it's part of our food system. And many of these chemicals, they can bioaccumulate in fish tissue. They can persist for decades. And this increases the risk of people to get cancer. Kids can get developmental disorders and even neurological diseases. So our families that regularly catch and eat the local seafood are really what are at risk here, and we know, as anglers, that species like snook, redfish, trout, shrimp, oysters, and clams, they live in the sediments. They're in the seagrasses, in the shallow waters, and that's where these contaminants can really concentrate. So not monitoring any of this, it leaves people exposed. and that they just didn't have the data to verify that that is okay, and that's what is really concerning here.
So
I think
So what I saw on their charts yesterday was they were basically only concerned with nitrogen and phosphorus, and they were saying that they were discharging at acceptable levels according to their particular numbers that they had shown.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were showing 1/10 of, or 1 part per 1,000 or 1 part per million. I forgot exactly what it was, per liter. And then,
Right.
in fact, I took a picture of it. And then the other one was like 3 parts per 1,000.
Right, that was the 3 milligrams per liter for the
Milligrams
nitrogen.
per liter for nitrogen.
Yeah.
And so
And then-
I am a fishing guide. I don't know what a milligram is. I don't know what a liter is. Okay. I grew up in an era before this was being taught in school. They kind of brought it in on us late, around 6th grade. Okay. So I don't know what a milligram is. I don't know what per liter is. Is it good? Is it bad? That's all I need to know. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a normal thing? But like you say, when you look at it, their flow rates, their pH levels, between 6 and 9, and what they're saying is that their pH their minimum was 6 and their maximum was 9 for their daily discharge. And you're saying some of the rates that you've seen are as low as 3?
Yeah, they were really, really low.
So super
And it happened
acidic. So we
multiple
don't
times.
need, a more acidic type of a scenario going on in the environment. Oils and
Definitely
greases, 5 milligrams per liter. Well, I would say that that's unacceptable. I'm a
Anything's
That's 5 too
unacceptable.
much.
I'm a fishing guide. Exactly, that's 5 too much. If you're putting oils and greases into the lagoon system at any rate other than 0, it's too much.
And
It's
if I spill a
unacceptable.
gallon of
It's
gasoline or
unacceptable.
diesel fuel filling up my
And
boat, I get a $10,000
this
fine.
new permit requires nitrogen and phosphorus testing, but the previous permit that was approved didn't require it. So I was looking for it. I was looking for the data, and I was like, why isn't it here? Because it wasn't even required, Jim. Like, this is something that we know is really important, and it affects our lagoon, and they weren't even required to put it in their permit.
Gotcha.
So what we're asking for is real testing and real transparency, because without that, we can't really verify that everything is okay, like they're saying.
Carla, we need to take a break, but you were saying 270 violations.
Yeah.
Was that over a 5-year period, or was that in a 1-year period?
That was just in the last 2 years.
In the last
And
2 years. So they were basically 135 days out of 365 days they were out of compliance.
Yep, that's true.
A third of the year they were out of compliance.
But don't worry, this
Yeah.
big
But there's
program-
nothing to see here.
No.
Honestly, last night it was like there was this whole smoke show going on. Nothing to see. It's all good. Everything's great.
Yeah.
Carla, if you can just hold through this break, we'd love to expand on this talk.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much. Guys and gals, we're going to take a break. When we come right back, we're going to be back with a whole lot more information for you, hopefully, so don't go away. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch a Memory Outdoors. Captain Jim Ross and Captain Kyle Weaver in the studio, and we've got a special guest on the line. Carla, I have totally forgot your last name, so you'll have to excuse me. What was your last name again?
Yeah, I'm Carla Persky.
Carla Persky. From English for Conservation, and also she's a scientist with UCF. Want to let you know that if you guys and gals are not liking your insurance, call Petrucci because they should do a rate quote for you, do some comparisons. I just got my renewal for my home yesterday. I'm afraid to open the letter. However, there's supposed to be a reduction from last year. I doubt it, but we'll see when I open the letter. But I can tell you that one of the things that we're going to be doing is we are going to be shopping around. Petrucci's going to be looking around to see if there's anything better than what my renewal offer is from my current company, who was the best case scenario last year, but may not necessarily be this year. That's why we're going to review it every single year. So if you guys and gals need to do that on your boat, your car, or your house, give Petrucci Insurance Agency a call, 321-632-1200. That's 632-1200, and you can get a hold of them. Perfect. We're going to go back to the phone lines. Carla Persky's on the line with us this morning. And Carla, we were talking about some of these things that they have been out of compliance on, and then a lot of things that the Space Center entities, not just Blue Origin, aren't even having to be tested. They're not even having to test for. So it seems like, the government wants to just kind of sweep it under the rug, and let's don't worry about the people of Titusville and Cocoa Beach and Merritt Island and Rockledge and Port St. John and Mims and Scottsmore. Let's just worry about getting to Mars, or let's worry about getting to the moon. And let's don't worry that we're trashing the planet that we're on already. And to me, that just makes absolutely no sense. I'm going to be kind of gross here, but it's kind of like pissing in your Cheerio bowl and then wondering why your cereal tastes funny.
You're right. We can't go to space, at the expense of us, of our, public health. Like, we just can't do it.
Exactly.
We can't be doing it.
So some of the other findings that you've had, you found a lot of different things out in your testing.
Yeah, so I was just digging through the public available data, and it was really hard to find because it's you have to really dig in their websites and into the permits, But the bottom line is that we believe that Florida can lead both in aerospace innovation and environmental stewardship, but not at the expense of our public health. So I just wanted to trust what they're saying, but I needed to verify that what they're saying is right. If these companies are saying that their discharge is clean, that's great, but let's verify that.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
I want to say that if you're a boat captain, an angler, or any family member that spends any time on the lagoon, your voice is really important here. This is not just about protecting the lagoon, but it's about protecting our children, our families who fish here, and obviously like our community that depends on this lagoon for their livelihood. And so, right now the public comments on this permit, they're open. They extended it until February 6th. So we want to ask people to support us in adding 4 things to this permit. The first thing is PFAS testing. These are forever chemicals that they're forever in the water. Heavy chemicals, groundwater sampling. And the fourth thing is independent assessments, because the other thing that I found is that all this they're required to self-report it. That seems like a big conflict of interest, so all these things are going to give us the information to trust what they're saying, but it'll allow us to verify that what they're putting into our system is actually as clean as they say it is, So I think that our voice is really important, and now more than ever. So you can go to our website, anglersforconservation.org, and at the very top, there's a little banner there. I created a template where you can download that, put your name on it, and email it to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection.
And that's asking for these companies to have independent verification of their discharge water.
That's right. And so what they told us yesterday at the meeting, I was bringing up all these different violations and all these things that are missing from the permit, and what they said is, oh, yeah, that's a great point. You can add that into the public comments. So that's why I'm saying that our voice is really important here, and us submitting those comments really, really can make a difference in what is included in that permit.
What's interesting to me, Carla, is that the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is the institution that is giving out these permits.
Yeah.
And if the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is giving permits to companies that have shown, and in this case, I would consider it a failure to comply with their previous set of requirements.
Absolutely.
How are they renewing a permit to a company that can't comply 33% of the time?
Absolutely.
I mean, how bad does it have to get to 66% of the time before they don't renew the permit? And
absolutely.
And if it's the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, why did they allow this to be done in the first place without all of the additional testing for the PFAS, for the various other chemicals, for the acidity? Why did they not have these implemented in the first permit? That's a huge red flag to me.
Absolutely.
I understand that you want to beat Russia, China, whoever else back to Mars, Bangladesh. I don't care. Whoever's launching up rocket, I don't care. I understand you want to do that, but the people of Brevard County in the Space Coast area deserve better. We honestly deserve
Absolutely.
better than what we're being served with right now. And there's got to be some way, like you say, there's public comment. Who does the public comment go to?
So that goes to the FDEP, so the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and they get all these comments, and they said that they can make, because they said that this is just a draft permit, and they said that they could make changes to it, but we need a lot of voices to go out and say that we want this to be done. You know, and to your point that you were saying, why wasn't this included? Unfortunately, at the federal level, at the state level, what they're asking for in this permit is what is required by the government. You know, so this is just basically the bare minimum. So we would be basically asking for them to go above and beyond the bare minimum. And if maybe a company like Blue Origin wants to set an example and be a leader in what, you know, environmental stewardship, and if they want to go to Mars, they can set an example on how it can be done transparently, you know, and protecting the public health of the people that live here.
That is a great point. That is a fantastic point.
It's sad in today's day and time that it takes this many voices to protect our environment. We shouldn't have to. That's what the Department of Environmental Protection Agency, that's what, they're the scientists. So why do we have to go
and not
up
only
in an
that,
uproar?
this is one of the few national estuaries.
It's very unique. It's like the
there's
Everglades.
there's multiple entities that are supposed to be protecting this area, and it's like we need a leader. We need somebody to be able to say, okay, we're the point guy on this, and everybody else follows under us. And the point guy should have the citizens' best interest. And this is a wildlife management area.
Federal wildlife.
And it's not just a state, it's a federal wildlife management area.
Yeah. And that is supposed to make it more stringent, so we didn't even talk about there's like 300 different species in Merritt Island. There's 32, species that are endangered. We didn't even talk about that.
Right.
And so all of those require additional protections, and that is nowhere in this permit. When you look at the historical permits that they have, the FAA has done analysis on those areas. They say all this wastewater dumping has no effect on the wildlife and on the wetlands. Like, how could they say that? Like, how could they say that there's no effect on the animals that were once there and now they're not there because they built all over where they used
the
to
Cheerios
live?
taste just fine. Trust me. I know I'm not drinking the milk or the whatever and eating the Cheerios because I got eggs and bacon over here. But trust me, your Cheerios are just fine.
Yeah.
Yep. Sad.
Yeah.
Well, Carla, thank you so much for helping people become a little more aware about this, including myself, because it's one of the things that I'm passionate about, and I'm just a fisherman, but I'm trying. I'm trying to do my best to figure it all out and to be able to try and help and do what I can. And I know that all of our listeners out there feel exactly the same way. They don't want to have issues when they go out there and try to harvest a fish out of the lagoon system to eat, or catch some shrimp or some crabs out of the lagoon system to take home and eat. They don't want to find out that their kid ends up growing a third eye and has autism because of it.
I know.
And so these things are highly important. So once again, if you'll let everybody out there know where they can go, it's a real simple. You said it's a banner on your website, and they can just click right on it and go and submit their opinion.
Yes, Jim. So they can go to our website, which is anglersforconservation.org. And at the very top of the website and all of our site, it says, your voice is important, because it is. And you can click on the button that says download template. You just replace it with your name. And I wrote everything out so that we are asking for people to request more PFAS testing, groundwater sampling, and independent assessments, and they can download the template, and then they're going to have to email it to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, but I put the email there on our website as well. And, thank you, Jim, for inviting me, and thanks to everyone who took the time to join us this morning.
Oh, I'm telling you, our listeners are going to jump in a big way, so hopefully you'll see a big surge in the next couple of hours or even next 2 or 3 days of listeners of this show and people that are concerned about what it is that you have brought to light. So thank you so much for what you've done, Carla. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate the call this morning.
Thank you. Have
Alrighty.
a great weekend and tight lines.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye now. Hey, gang, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we got a whole lot more. Yeah, anglersforconservation.org. You can jump on your computer real quick and download that form if while you're on the break if you want to. We're going to be right back with more Catch a Memory after this. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you guys and gals tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch a Memory Outdoors. Starbright Cleaning Solution segment. You know what? That thing right there is money. That thing, if you guys are looking on the Facebook feed, this little magic sponge from the ultimate magic sponge from Starbright, this thing is money. I did a little short clip the other day, and I just threw it up on Facebook, and it was like, or maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know. I did it the other day, and it was like, this is all you need. You need the boat wash and wax. You need a Starbright deck brush or two. I like the medium bristle for my non-skid. I like the soft bristle for my clear, my outside and my non-skidded areas of the boat, and little wash and wax, couple little cleaners here and there, but just not a whole lot. The mold and mildew cleaner, I use that all the time. But this magic sponge, dude, it just, everything that your deck brush doesn't get up, you wipe this thing around on it. It even takes off those scuffs from the rub rails on the floating docks. And if you come in and you slide along the floating dock, it's going to leave that rubber or plastic or whatever that stuff is. It's going to leave it down the side of your
Racing
boat.
stripe.
The racing stripe. And so if you get one of those, this magic sponge will actually take it off. So if you guys and gals haven't checked it out, try the Starbright Ultimate Magic Sponge. It really, really does a fantastic job of getting every little thing that nothing else seems to pick up off your boat. So check that thing out. So that's your cleaning solution segment for the day. Fishing and boating conditions. I don't even know why we're doing this, but we're going to throw it out there anyway. Small craft caution, not small craft advisory, small craft caution. Gale warning starts at 10 a.m. this morning for those of you guys and gals out in a boat. If you're out in the boat, get to the dock. West winds today becoming 20 to 25, going to 30 to 35 knots. Then becoming northwest tonight at 30 to 40 knots potentially. Seas inside of 20 miles are supposed to be about 5 feet with a period of 5 seconds.
I find that off.
I'll let you figure it out. I'm not going to be there. But if you want to go check it, you can to verify. You're more than welcome to. I wouldn't recommend it, though. 4 Mile Buoy right now, 62 degrees. Water temp's dropping drastically along the near coastal waters, which is kind of interesting to me because the flow hasn't really been all that strong. Even though we've had a north wind, it's not been a hard north push for the most part. But it's going to be after this front at 30 to 40 knots. It's going to be. So I think that the water temperature along the beach is going to drop down pretty good. It was only 1 foot at 11 seconds earlier, but that is going to change. 20 Mile Buoy, 74 degree water temp, 2 foot at 8 seconds, and the 6 Mile Buoy was 69 degrees out of Fort Pierce and 2 feet at 11 seconds. I didn't even check the western edge of the Gulf Stream because nobody needs to be that far offshore. Temperature, you got a 62 degree water temp at Ponce, 62 at Canaveral, and 67 down at Sebastian. So there's a definite temperature break between here and Sebastian. For those of you guys that may get out and do a little surf fishing, especially after the wind stops blowing, that might not be too bad. Tides at Canaveral, we got a 12:40 p.m. low and a 6:30 p.m. high. Tides at Sebastian, 12:43 p.m. low and a 6:39 p.m. high. Here's the main thing, though. If you guys and gals are going to get out, there's a major at 10:30 to 12:30 p.m. today. So 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And then a minor this evening from 4:18 to 5:18. And that is brought to you by the guys and gals down at All About Archery. So that's pretty cool. Mike was talking yesterday. Mike Mann was talking yesterday about his feed was pretty much spot on and my feed was pretty close to the major yesterday morning. But what was so interesting was that little trigger, that little barometer change, that wind shift, whatever it was, when it went light southeast to heavy west, it was like boom. I mean, they kicked off, and then but it was very short window, 15 15 minutes or so, it was boom, boom, boom. Snook started firing. Every croaker we threw out was getting slammed, and then it changed. It was like, okay, they flicked the switch on and everybody was eating, and they flicked the switch off and they all stopped. Pretty interesting. I'm hoping that Carla can post the link on our Facebook feed for you guys and gals to be able to kind of follow through if you want to get involved with trying to get some information to the Department of Environmental Protection. So I've asked her to load that up on the Facebook feed if possible. So hopefully we will see that. We're going to go to the phone lines. We've got Donald Waberman from Lutz calling in. Good morning, Donald.
Hey, good morning, Captain Jim. It's been a while since I've been able to get through.
It has been. What have you been doing? You've been kayaking?
It's been a little bit kayaking, but I was out over in Sebastian the beginning of this month, and staying at Oyster Point Bay Resort with a friend of mine over there who's got a timeshare. But we were out in a boat fishing the river and catching some really nice pompano.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Some trout, and it was like, man, this was awesome. Just tootling around, checking out all the different spoil islands, and it's a little different fishery, over on that side than it is on my side. But it was very cool to be out there. And,
yeah, I was talking with Blair Wiggins, and right around the first week of the month there, he was out at Sebastian, and he actually caught, was it like 20 bonefish? Yeah, like 20 bonefish, 18 or 20 mixed pompano and permit.
And didn't a week later you caught a bonefish off Canaveral? Was it you? Somebody caught.
I didn't catch one.
Somebody about a week
I've
later.
never caught up. I fish all the time. I never catch a bonefish here.
Well, that's pompano fish. Somebody else. I thought it was you. Somebody a week later caught
one at Canaveral.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that bite a couple of weeks ago was really good.
Yeah, that was so much fun. Just watching the pelican, just being on the other coast. It was just very cool, different waters than when I'm here. But I was supposed to go kayaking today, but I postponed that to 2 weeks. So yeah, it's just.
I would say that was probably a good call.
Yep, because it's going to be brutal out here, Tampa Bay. I mean, right as of an hour ago, there were 4-foot seas in the middle of Tampa Bay. So, 4 foot in the middle of Tampa Bay, no, thank you.
No, not at all. I'll pass.
And it's going to get worse.
Well, what else did you catch when you were over here? You said you had pompano and trout. Did you get any snook or sheephead or redfish or anything?
No, that was the only two species that I got was the pompano and trout. But I was using my paddle tails and then the pompano jigs, but didn't do any dead sticking or any live bait fishing. So, but I just love throwing artificials and just chucking them. So
yeah. Now, where's Oyster Bay? Is that south of Hiram's?
It's south of Brevard County, not too far south of Brevard County. The St. Sebastian Bridge,
right?
I think that's called right there, right before you get heading into Brevard County.
Yeah,
south of that. So just a couple miles there. But so I know we tootled down to the bridge that goes to Orchid Island to Wabasso.
Right, the Wabasso
we went down
Causeway.
There, fishing around all the islands inside there, and really didn't catch anything there. Small trout, very small trout, like 10, 12 inches. And then when we got back out into the river, we found around this island, and the smallest trout I caught was 16 and a half.
Yeah, there's some good trout down there right now. The pompano. The reason I ask is because the flat that's south of basically Mulligan's, that flat goes all the way down to a place that we call Planet of the Apes, and it's an old unfinished condo or basically condo unit, and it's all been spray painted up and stuff now. But that flat that's from Mulligan's there at the Yacht Club boat ramp south is pretty productive in the early winter time for both trout and for pompano. It gets really shallow though, so you have to kind of be careful where you're going at times. But we skip a lot of pompano in there too. So it's a good place to, if you can just idle along until you skip them and then stop and fish the area. So it's an easy way to fish on a calm day.
Yeah, we did. We got lucky with the weather. I mean, it was like beautiful in the 60s, maybe up to 70, and like no wind. You know, it was that first weekend in January we were there, so that was pretty cool.
Hey, did you go to Captain Mike's event last Tuesday?
I was there at OCC, yeah.
How did that go? It sounded like it was a big time.
It was a great time. Captain Scott Moore and his son Captain Justin Moore, they were guest speakers. And let me tell you, Captain Scott Moore is just a fountain of knowledge.
He's been fishing as long as I have. He has been chartering for probably 30 years or more.
Yeah, he's an impressive on this West Coast, and he wrote a book about snook fishing, and just he talked about how he started in the restaurant and with Phil Alessi. I'm friends with Jason Alessi, and I've been in Phil's office. Now Phil passed away many years ago, but I've been in Phil's office, and there's a replica of a snook that he caught on Scott's boat, and Jason was telling me stories, when he was a young kid fishing with Scott and his dad. So that was pretty cool. And Phil was, a big influence on him going into the charter business. So, because he wanted to charter for Scott, but Scott didn't have his license back then, charter license. He goes, maybe I'll get it. He goes, you will. And Phil, was a big influence and helper, with Scott. So you never know who's going to help out, getting people into business, and it just took off from there. And it's just an incredible voice on the West Coast here.
Yeah, he definitely is. Well, buddy, have you got anything going on in the next week or so that you're going to be out on the water?
In 2 weeks, yep. I'm going to be fishing by the Skyway, by Tarpon Key. It's an island just west of the Skyway Bridge.
Launching out of Maximo?
No. There's a beach launch at the North Skyway Rest Area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it goes right. I mean, you got to cross the boat channel to get to Tarpon Key, but once you cross that boat channel, there's some great fishing there.
Yeah, the schools of redfish used to get around that island all the time.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've seen some big schools of reds there, but the trout bite is always good. There's always snook that's hanging around, and so there's inside the lagoon area that I know snook like to hang out. And this weekend would have been great for soliners and tides hadn't been this cold front and this weather.
There's always that variable that comes in and messes it up, isn't there?
I know, because I plan these like 3 weeks ahead of time. To make sure everybody gets a notice, my DOSU people. So there's usually about 12 to 14 of us, and then I grill cheeseburgers and hot dogs. And I've been doing also brats lately as well, so mixing it up.
Man, I'm going to have to show up to one of your fishing events. Holy cow, that sounds like a big time.
It is a good time. We hang out afterwards for a couple hours, have whatever beverage of your choice, and I'll light up a cigar and grill for everybody. So
that sounds like a fun time. Well, buddy, thank you so much for the call this morning. We appreciate you joining the show, and enjoy the next outing that you get a chance to take.
Yeah, appreciate you taking my call. That Anglers for Conservation just popped up. I see it on the Facebook feed, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was a great call.
I'll tell you what, she has done a lot of research on that, and being the scientific mind that she is, I was so impressed. I had just met her for the first time last night at this Blue Origin meeting, and I was so impressed with her thought process as to what really needs to be done to make sure that these companies aren't polluting our lagoon. And man, she is like lead, I would say, point person when it comes to kind of the way that things should be done. So I was really fortunate to have met her last night.
I'll tell you, the state of Florida, both coasts, we have the greatest people in the entire world as far as conservation and anglers, and just a fountain of knowledge and, everything that goes on in our state. So I'm blessed to have been here since '87. So it's very cool coming from Long Island, New York.
Awesome.
Do a lot of fishing up there, but man, when I moved to Florida, it opened up a whole new world. You know, fresh water and salt. So,
And we get to fish 365. We don't have a season. We get a year worth it. Well, buddy, we're up against our next break. Thanks so much for the call this morning, and have a blessed day.
you too. You guys take care. Stay safe and tight lines.
You too, brother. Bye now. Hey, gang, we're going to take our last break of the day. We'll be right back. But, yes, if you want to look on the Facebook feed, the Anglers for Conservation link is there as well. So, anglersforconservation.org. We need to be heard on this one. It's just the start of many fights, it looks like, because there's a lot going on at the Space Center, and a lot can go wrong real quick. So let's make sure that we put our voice in early and often. We're going to be right back after this break. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. Hopefully you guys and gals are going to be bundled up tonight and tomorrow night. We're going to need to crack those hoses, make sure that your favorite hose that you wash your boat down with isn't going to be failed whenever you come out. It's one of the definite things. Charles Hersey actually was asking about sprinkler systems, and I'm like, I don't know what you do for a sprinkler system.
Turn them on.
Just turn them on and let them run? Or, I mean, if you got up at, say, 2 in the morning and let it run for an hour and then turned it off and maybe got up at 6 again and turned it on for an hour or something, maybe that'll do it. I don't
water
know.
flowing through there.
It's not something that we have to deal with, you know?
I doubt they'd freeze underground. It's not going to be that cold where it's going to freeze
I-
the pipes
yeah,
underground,
yeah.
but your actual heads might
The heads
freeze.
might. Yeah, the heads might.
I mean, we're not talking winter, frozen ground.
Yeah. And I'm this revised forecast, I'm really excited to see, because they were talking about being in the teens, like 19 to 18, 19, 20 degrees. That's brutal. And now being at 28, for here on the coast, and then the next night being 30, I think that may help us dodge the bullet. We'll see.
Time will tell.
To be seen, to be determined.
Mother Nature.
24 for tomorrow morning here in Cocoa. Yeah, so it's 28 at the port. I was reading the Canaveral Tide Station report. So anyway, Kyle, 68 Viking.
Yep.
Got a whole new job ahead of you.
Yep.
We did have one question about approaching tuna packs, and obviously that's something that you have done on a regular basis. Do bigger fish react differently than smaller fish, or are they pretty much tuna's a tuna?
Tuna's a tuna.
Gotcha.
How I approach tuna packs, out of Canaveral, we chase the birds, and most people go straight into them, and that's the absolute worst thing you can do. Stop, watch how they're feeding, let the tunas approach you. Always get ahead of them and get way more ahead than you think, because the actual school of tuna is probably anywhere from 1,000 yards to a half mile to a quarter mile in front of those birds. What you're seeing where the birds are is where they fed in the leftovers.
Right.
The rest of the school's way ahead of them. Tunas don't like you approaching them, but if you can get in front of them, and then if you think you're too far and you're not getting bit, then you can start doing some
Like a
S-turns
zigzag.
and slow down and let that school catch, because they all feed in one direction. They're very uniform. They're not going to go, the whole school might change direction, chase a bait ball, but
If they spook, or if they chase something.
if they spook, they're going down.
Yeah.
But they always swim exactly uniformly, and then a couple of feet off, and that's where the birds are. But the rest of the school's way ahead of that. So let them approach you. Be very cautious of the sun's position, your boat's position, your shadow on that school, because that will spook them.
Okay.
And I'd say 90% of the time, tunas are always going to feed into the current because they're strong. They're red-blooded. They can swim. That baits the conveyor belt coming down current. So they're going to use that current in their advantage. They're going down sea.
So they're going to push the bait into the current.
Correct. Now, mahi-mahis out in the open ocean. Now, here it's a little bit different, but like on the other side of the Gulf Stream, big ocean, they're always going with the current.
Kind of like a sailfish.
Correct.
On a heavy north wind.
And the reason they're doing that, generally mahi-mahis are feeding on flying fish. So they're surfing downwind, and that flying fish has to turn and go into the wind to take off. Well, that's how they ambush point. So if you see birds going downwind, it's usually not going to be your tunas, and their small, it's probably going to be your white marlin or your mahi-mahis or something like that. But when the schools and the birds are going into the current, not necessarily the wind, the current, get in front of them. Let them approach you.
We're almost out of 2 hours. I don't know where the heck it went. We got 3 minutes left in this show. It goes so fast. Thanks for that tip, though. That's a fantastic tip. So you're running a 68 now. you really like that 54. You said you love the harmonics on that boat.
He raises them. All 54s. That's the second one I've run, and I've caught giant fish on that old 54.
So with all of these new technologies and all of these new things that we have available to us now, can a boat builder specifically build harmonics into a boat intentionally, or is it just total accident and sheer luck?
All the above. The technology and what it would cost be like nuclear submarine. It would take a lot of money to figure out what those harmonics are and how to duplicate them. I'm sure the U.S. Navy can do it on submarines and spend billions to do it. Right. But certain manufacturers, certain boats are known for raising them. Certain engines are known for raising them. Like this boat with this engine package, fish catcher.
Fish catcher.
This product, this wooden boat with these engines, fish catcher. This boat, everybody knows, it's not a good raising boat. So
how are you feeling going into this new season with this new owner and this new boat?
We'll find out. I'll probably have a little bit more gray in my beard.
It's gonna be
it'll be a learning curve.
Is it a new boat? Is it?
Yes.
So it's a brand new. Okay. So there's no history on this boat yet.
No. Figure it out. Have to fish it a few times. I mean, it's going to take time to figure out what speeds.
Open cockpit or enclosed cockpit or fly bridge?
It's enclosed fly bridge. It's nice.
Ooh,
Tuna
look
tower.
at you with the headset on and in the air conditioning.
I'll be up in that tuna tower most of the time, but West Palm for now, and then Gulf of Mexico next summer. But supposedly, back and forth.
So
Gulf of America. Sorry,
the Gulf of America. Yeah. Man, I guess there's so many more questions that are running through my mind right now.
We'll be calling in after tournaments, that's for sure.
Well, I was going to say, if you're out there on the water and you can give us a heads up, or if you call in, like you say, after the tournaments, the whole teamwork thing. Obviously, they're going to need to be coached up, I would assume.
It's just like putting a football or baseball team together. You've got to get the right team, get everybody working together, and do a lot of practice and go at it.
So you've got a whole new challenge ahead of yourself this year.
And a brand new boat that I have, I got to learn all this new technology.
Yeah.
So, all brand new stuff.
Going to be good. We look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully the listeners out there appreciate all of the knowledge that you have when it comes to raising various kinds of fish, and the fish that you put in the boat are just incredible. So thank you so much for coming in this morning. Good luck on the tournament season this year. Good luck on the new job, and we're going to get out and have some more fun before you get out of town and while you're in between spots at town, because I still want to try and do some snipe hunting.
I hope. I was going to go this weekend, but I don't think I want to take the airboat out.
Not now. Guys and gals, until next week, stay warm. Don't let that frost get you. Let your pipes drip a little bit. Turn your hose on and let it just drip, and we're going to get through this thing. Hopefully, everybody keep your fingers crossed, and we don't lose a whole lot of fish in the lagoon system, because we're finally on a rebound. So till next week, do exactly what Captain Kyle and myself are going to do. Get out there and catch yourselves a memory.